I'm Tim Linville, the CEO of the Construction Employers Association in Northeast Ohio, and happy to moderate this panel today on changing the perception of trades work in construction. It's been a long time developing the problem that we have right now with the workforce shortage that everybody's experiencing across the industry and all different aspects of employment in construction, whether it's management roles or trades roles. We're going to talk today about the perception of the trades in particular. And on the panel today, we have three guests in the industry. We have Ken Beck with Lake Erie Electric. We have Steve Lawson with Shook and Keith Laschinger with Cleveland Builds. Keith and I work together at CEA, and Keith's the executive director of Cleveland Builds. Let the gentlemen introduce themselves and their companies, where they are in the state, and what they've been doing on this initiative, starting with Ken. Ken?
Hello. I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer for Lake Erie. We're a Westlake or Cleveland-based electrical contractor with 8 locations in Ohio and 2 in Michigan. My background, I started out in high school in Michigan, just north of Toledo, and wasn't really enjoying, junior high as well, and then entered the 9th grade, and they had a vocational electricity program, which I entered. And we did half a day of school and then half a day at the vocational program, and it really clicked with me. I really enjoyed it. It was solving problems, hands-on. And in my junior year, the instructor had a panel shop in Toledo, wanted to hire kids from the class to come wire panels. So I was one he sent over, and I started wiring control panels. So if I count from there, I've been doing this for 48 years in one form or another. So I've seen the industry really transform, from what it was back in the 70s and 80s to today. So it's been exciting to see it. Some things about Lake Erie, we have about right now close to almost 1,000 electricians on our jobs. So we definitely are experiencing the challenges of getting enough craft for projects, and we're seeing a lot of non-traditional people coming out to their jobs now because of that. We worked in 28 states, and it doesn't seem like the problem's unique to Ohio. I think Ohio probably has more of a shortage in the skilled trades, but as we go across the United States in various areas, we're seeing the same problem everywhere. It seems there's been such a drain on the craft with all the very large projects, and the baby boomers retiring out too is causing another part of our severe problem. Maybe flip over. Okay, so this is our locations in Ohio. And we really try to have each office as an autonomous office that bids and manages small work and medium-sized and large work in their areas. And it's been a good formula. Then we travel, as needed for projects out of town for good customers. Last slide kind of talks about some of the things we're trying to do to approach workforce development with our company. I think one of the things we're finding is trying to emphasize to new people coming into construction, this really is a great industry. I was looking at some numbers that said typically in construction, if you talk to the workforce, we get like an 81 to 82% satisfaction rating among the employees who work either in the field or the office. But if you look at typical workforces in the United States, it's down close to 50%. So I think a lot of people, once they get into the industry, they really enjoy it because of the sense of accomplishment of being on teams, building projects. But I think we are kind of unique. A lot of people know what a fireman does and they know what a doctor does, but I think it takes more education to young people for them to realize the opportunities in construction and what it means to become skilled trades. I think another thing we have to do as an industry is the use of technology, is changing very quickly. And the young people coming in, they want a career where they're going to use technology every day, whether it's using a total station for layouts, using iPads, computers, 3D automation for the design. I think that's really helping attract some of the younger people to the industry, that we're finally starting to embrace technology, where we've been kind of slow to do. I think the other aspect we try to promote is really the financial opportunities in construction far outweigh so many other jobs. I mean, I was on an apprenticeship committee for years, and we would be interviewing people with a 4-year degree in business or arts, guys working at a McDonald's as a general manager, and he would be making about a third less than a typical journeyman would make on a job, and he's working 60 hours a week. And I think a lot of people came out of college in the 80s and 90s getting into roles like that, and it was difficult for them to really earn a good living. And our construction industry has such opportunities for financial growth. I think, too, as we're trying to do a better job of providing mentorships to young people, whether they're people at work that have a high school kid who want to come to work and do a ride-along day and participate, or people who we reach from the high schools. So I think that helps. And then also the apprenticeship programs are really helped develop. And one thing, too, I think we don't think about as an industry enough is 20 and 30 years ago, if you looked at the recordable incident rates and things on the projects were much, much higher. And I think construction kind of had a bad reputation as an industry where a lot of people got hurt. And I think with the emphasis now where getting hurt on a job is not acceptable, and we promote safety and plan for safety, it makes the industry more desirable for people to get into. For a while, a lot of the trades, iron workers, it was a dangerous job. Electricians, a lot of times they had electrical arc flashes and things. We just don't do that hot work anymore. And that's really helped making our industry more desirable to young people. And they talked a little bit before about diversity and having a positive work culture. Years ago on the jobs, I think it was almost a rite of passage where the senior guys would abuse the younger people and name calling and everything you could imagine. And it was in good fun sometimes, or it was a rite of passage, but I think it kind of drove people away from our industry too. And I think now with us trying to stop that and say, that's not acceptable, it'll allow us to bring more non-traditional people into our industry that'll actually give us some different backgrounds with different skill sets, which we need, especially in today's automation and everything that's coming into our business.
Thank you, Ken. We arranged the slides alphabetically by last name, so Keith's up next.
Hi, I'm Keith Laschinger. I'm the Executive Director of Cleveland Builds. And as Tim said, we work together at the Construction Employers Association. Our organization was founded, Tim brought the board together for the very first time in March of 2020. So you can imagine how much we got done that first year. It was about a week before the world shut down. I personally had not heard about Cleveland Builds yet at that point in time, but was brought in as the organization's kind of first executive director in May of 2021. So we've been at this now for a little over 3 years, and we see it as our role to promote the industry, really, certainly in the city of Cleveland, and in Cuyahoga County, and then in all the adjacent counties as well. So we've got a pretty wide service area that we try to cover. Beyond the promotion of the industry, we really focus on the apprenticeship readiness program that we provide, and then we strive to place those who are qualified, and they demonstrate that throughout the apprenticeship readiness program. We place them in apprenticeships. Just this year, during 2024, we have placed more than 70 people in 17 different trades. So we're not focused on any one particular trade as we go. We're really trying to learn about a participant and what their skills might be, what their interests might be, and then kind of tee them up with an opportunity that we think they've got a real opportunity to be very successful at. We are certainly trying to communicate to young people and adult career seekers that we're working with that this is not a job. This has an opportunity to really be a great career. So many of the people that we're meeting with, particularly the folks in their 20s who are more the kind of adult career seeker profile, what we find is they're working a couple of jobs, just trying to make ends meet, and they really haven't found that opportunity to build a career. And so we end up, as we promote these opportunities, we end up spending a lot of time talking with folks about great pay, excellent benefits, an opportunity really to advance, and in a colloquial way, we also say you get to build some cool shit. You know, you know, in more polite company, we would say it's fulfilling work that you're getting an opportunity to do in building our built environment. About 75% of those that we serve are African American. 20 to 25% are women, and roughly half of the individuals we serve are City of Cleveland residents. So again, we really are serving a pretty broad geographic area. With the Apprenticeship Readiness Program, I notice that's the slide that's up there right now. We're really only spending 18 hours with individuals, so it's pretty surface level, admittedly. I like to refer to it as an extended interview. We're trying to figure out, you know, how serious somebody is. Do they get there, you know, early to on time? You know, they get there with their homework done. We do give them a little bit of homework in between classes. They come in with a good attitude. Are they in dress code? As we start to do hands-on activities, you know, are you coachable? If you're struggling with something, do you kind of give up, or do you persist through it? As we put people in teams, do you kind of work well? Do you collaborate well with others? So we're looking for not really necessarily great technical skill, but we're looking for what I like to refer to as a former educator. We're looking for habits that somebody might have that would allow them to be successful in an apprenticeship. The design, and I have to give Tim enormous credit for this, but the design of our organization is very much industry-led. So we're a 501c3, and Tim is one of the co-chairs, and again, he serves as the CEO of the Construction Employers Association, and his co-chair is Dave Wondolowski, who's the head of our Trades Council. So we've got kind of labor and management at the table with us. Tim has nominated 4 members to our board. Dave has nominated another 4, and then we have 3 folks that kind of represent elements of the community. Somebody from the city of Cleveland, somebody from the county, and then somebody who's got experience running a program that works with Latinos getting into construction. So we're very much industry-led. We've got great industry buy-in, and that allows us to do what we need to do. We also strive to, you know, again, as a nonprofit organization, and my background, first 15 years of my career was spent in secondary education, so pretty non-traditional background for construction. I didn't exactly walk into my interview and say I don't know anything about construction, but I think they knew I didn't know a whole lot about construction. But I have a real passion for the individuals we serve, passion for my city of Cleveland, and we really do strive to be very worker-centered in everything that we're doing.
Thanks, Keith. Steve?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm with Shook Construction. I'm a senior project manager. I've been with the company for 18 years. So if you don't know much about us, we're full service construction manager, general contractor, headquartered out of Dayton, Ohio. Got offices in 7 different locations, 3 different states, including Cleveland and here in Columbus for Ohio. The 4 areas of work that we focus in, that we expertise in, is education, healthcare, industrial, and water resources. Part of what brings me back year after year to Shook is our dedication to our mission, which is dramatically improving the communities we serve. So we do that in several different ways. We have each of our project teams do local community service projects for those particular locations and communities of the project. We recently extended that out to abroad. Back since 2019, we've sent 3 different groups all across the world to areas in need that really struggle on a daily basis for the basic necessities that we might take for granted, such as clean water, education, and healthcare. Most recently, we just sent a group to Thailand earlier this year to help build a girls' home for rescued children from trafficking. But the other thing on how we dramatically improve the communities we serve is through our workforce development, which is more relevant to what we're here talking about today. So here in Ohio, we create great relationships and partnerships with the local high schools, CTC programs, nonprofit organizations, and really use that as a platform to outreach, for an outreach program to thousands of students, and just to bring the awareness up to the trades. And within the last 2 years, you can see up there we've touched over 19,000 students through this outreach program, and more than 13,000 of those are K through 12 students just within the state of Ohio. And part of that program, of those 13,000 students, we've probably enrolled or assisted in students enrolling in formal apprenticeship programs. And then actually, I think 3 of those were teachers that left their teaching jobs to sign up for apprenticeship program. So there's still a lot of work to do. Those are some of the things that we're doing on, just for our part to help raise the awareness for the trades.
Thank you. Well, my involvement in this effort and the workforce development effort in general, CEA is a historic 1916 founded association centered around collective bargaining with the trade unions. Part of that, what that evolved into over the decades, was starting up programs that made careers in construction possible, retirement programs, healthcare programs, training programs that were portable with the person as they matriculated through their career, and so that their retirement, their healthcare, and their training could progress even though they're working for a different contractor today than they did yesterday. So that's been very beneficial to our types of contractors, which are signatory union contractors. And but we've been hearing the drumbeat of workforce shortages coming for 15 years, ever since I got to CEA, and finally it slapped us in the face in the last few years. Along with, in metropolitan centers like Cleveland, there's a big outcry for diversity, and deservedly so. In the state of Ohio, outlawed local hiring laws. In 2018, I think it was finalized with the courts, and we saw a need to make up for that. We were part of the local hiring in Cleveland before it was outlawed, and a part of the advisory committee for that. Our contractors were bought into it. The ownership committee was community was bought into it, and we wanted to see it continue on an industry-led basis, which is why we started Cleveland Builds. Along with that, the trades, the unions themselves, they're trade person led. They're led by former tradespersons, which they're not all equally qualified to do outreach, to present well, to make their trade look sexy. So we wanted a more organized effort to better promote careers in the trades than were currently in existence, and some consistency around that endeavor. So that's why we started Cleveland Builds. But that being said, there's no silver bullet, and I'm going to ask a few questions to prompt discussion, but then I'll circulate if I see anybody with their hand raised with a question to see what the audience has to ask as well. The first question is relating to it being a boots-on-the-ground type effort. From what I understand, careers in the trades were usually referred to by friends and family, the friends and family network. My dad was a carpenter, my dad was an electrician, and so forth and so on. When did that change, and why did that change? Ken?
As I look back, I think one change happened around 2008 when the economy really slowed down. Lots of the building trades had 30%, 40%, 50% unemployment, and some people were out of work for a year. And I think the young people, the fathers, mothers were in the trades at that time, said, wow, I don't want to get to that industry because it's so cyclical. And I think during that time frame too, the apprenticeship programs and everything said we got to stop bringing people in. We can't put the new people to work. So with the baby boomers coming to retirement, and then that happened, and that didn't really start picking up again for 3 or 4 years before the apprenticeship program started taking people. And it was interesting watching, like, prior to that, if a class, would say in Cleveland, they were gonna take 50 apprentices, they might get 400 applications. After that cycle, when they started taking apprentices again, 4 or 5 years later, they have a class of 30, they might get 70 applications. So it almost seemed as if that friends and family network usually pulled people into applying for the apprenticeships. I think the parents didn't want their children to go through what they went through, so they quit encouraging careers in construction. And it's kind of was a period, I think, also we had, a lot of pressure from the schools. You should go to college, you shouldn't work in the trades. But it seems recently, I think, there's been so much promoted in the industry, I'm starting to see now where the, say, 23, 24-year-olds to 18s, we have a lot of people that are approaching us through our website right out of high school or while they're still in high school saying, what do we need to do to get involved as an electrician? I'd like to become an electrician. So I think that's changing, but it's interesting. If we ask in here, how many people in here, by a raise of hands, have you got a child or like a nephew, cousin involved in the construction industry and you're in the industry? Got one. Yeah. Two. Okay, two. Yeah, so even we as an industry, I think, don't do a very good job promoting it to our own families and neighbor kids and friends. I'm habitually, if I go into Tractor Supply and a kid's loading horse feed into my car, I said, this guy's not afraid to get dirty and work. I grab him and I said, hey, how'd you like to become an electrician? And I have gotten a few people to do it, but I think we need to promote it more and try to encourage our current employees to do a better job of selling our industry to people they know.
And just to add on to what Ken mentioned earlier, so he mentioned about the safety of our job sites, and I think a big component of that is family not referring their kids. Is there were no limits and restrictions to labor, intense labor, non-safety conditions on the site. So yeah, the old stigma is I'm going to be broken by the time I'm 50. So why would I want to put my child through that? But we've got to change that mindset now because we are being more intentional about, safe projects.
I think partly too, we're sort of a victim of our own success in our industry with people having nice retirements, nice wages. Culture has promoted college as a success route for everyone. So, of course, everybody wants to see their kid go to college, be more successful than they were. And our own tradespeople are in the position to send their kids to college, and so that referral network breaks down. There's a question back here.
You kind of answered my question. My question was, kind of go with Ken's question, how many people in this room started in the trades, right? Probably not very many, I would assume, right?
How many people started in the trades? 6, 8? Yeah.
6, 8,
How many of those people in a room like this?
Question. Panel?
How do we get tradespeople in a room like this?
Yes.
That's a great point. Way that we're starting to do that is by, just in our organization, we want to make sure that we're engaging our training coordinators specifically to come in and provide us with their insights. They're starting to work with the young people that we're referring to them, so we want to see what they're observing. How are we doing at selecting the right people, at training them up in the limited amount of time that we spend with them. We have to have that kind of feedback with from those individuals that really know it. Another thing that we're doing is that again, I mentioned that first 15 years of my career were spent in secondary education. You will never see me in our training shop doing anything other than saying hello to somebody. I'm not teaching them how to become tradespeople. We insist that anybody who's going to be in that training shop is a tradesperson with significant experience. So we're really welcoming, in our case, union trainers into our shop to make sure that they're kind of getting their eyes on prospective tradespeople and sharing wisdom with them, and in the limited time we have with them, getting them as many of the technical skills as possible.
Steve kind of touched on it, about the respect, right, for our workers, because at the end of the day, those are the people putting work in place. On a day like today, I think it's probably 90, 92 degrees outside. How do I convince somebody to want to work on a day like this, to want to go to the bathroom in Portager when the temperature's like this, to want to go to the bathroom when it's 20 degrees outside? How do we improve those conditions, right? And I'm not saying we have all the answers today. I'm just asking the questions. How do we improve upon, trade stacking, trade burdening? I see it all day, every day. We're just overwhelming these guys. It's why we talked earlier in the morning about the suicide rate. How do we move away from that?
When we discussed as a panel, one of the things we talked about was target populations, and Ken and Steve both talked about different groups that you would go to for a certain type of person that's been through a certain, sports or team activities, football players, wrestlers, gymnastics, anything that's like rigorous, that'll prepare somebody for a rigorous job. You guys speak to some of the areas that you target.
Yeah, so what we see is I think the union apprenticeship directors and people that work for us that might be an assistant football coach or involved in a baseball team, we said, hey, we want to take 15 minutes and talk to your juniors and seniors about the opportunities in the construction industry. Because I think people who enjoy physical activity and they'll play, they practice football in August when it's hotter than hell, and they'll do that kind of stuff outdoors. It's just like the kid who and when we start talking to people about getting in, if the guy goes mountain biking, maybe he does climbing, he plays 3 or 4 sports, they're highly likely to and once they get into our industry and succeed. Then I looked at other younger people that might have been, their main hobby is gaming. And a lot of times they'll come out and try it, and 2 or 3 weeks they're done. That's not really what they want to do. So I think it's part of our industry. It is unique. Being an electrician, there's some days you're going to go home very tired, very dirty, and other trades, especially if you're laboring or something, it's a lot of physical work. And I think people who do it smart can make their bodies last. And I think we have to promote too. We talked about it earlier, that put your time in working with the tools, but as you start to get some time in, maybe it's 8 to 10 years. I saw NECA, the National Electrical Contractors, had done a development, and they were showing our current workforce with the number of supervisors who are retiring out because they're generally over 45. And they said currently they felt to have a new person that starts an apprenticeship program today, it takes 8 to 12 years before they're effective as a line level foreman, and probably another 4 to 6 years after that to become more of a general foreman superintendent. And the numbers are staggering when you see what's retiring out of the industry. So I think one of the things we have a challenge is, how do we accelerate that transfer of knowledge to the younger people, where we're intentionally taking a bright young apprentice and we'll put him with a general foreman or a foreman and say, work with this kid every day. You show him how you plan, how do you organize, how do you get the material, how do you look at the schedule. And I think we found that's pretty successful, that I think as contractors, it may seem like you're spending money, but I think you're really training your next generation of leaders by identifying those people when they're last couple of years of their apprenticeship program and targeting them. We have a futures leader class that we put on where we invite them to come in every month, and we'll have different tradespeople do a presentation topic about how do you deal with a problem employee, how do you deal with laying out conduits for a concrete pour. And the young people really soak that up, because no one's ever taken the time just to sit down in an hour and a half and explain to them, these are some tools you can use that you can take anywhere that'll make you much more valuable and also make you much more comfortable in your job. And I think that's part of it. If we make them more comfortable with their role, they will accept leadership responsibility more, and they'll enjoy it. Because it's not for the money. They don't make enough money extra per hour as a foreman or a general foreman. It's really this personal satisfaction and them wanting to lead and have that sense of accomplishment that I did this. And I think that's what we try to promote to people.
I think too, to kind of expand on your question is, so it kind of goes back to how do we elevate the trades also? And to get somebody to work on a 100-degree day, we've got to figure out, all of us in this room, all of us in this industry, all the managers and leaders within our industry, we've got to figure out a way to allow that trade worker to go home and not say his job sucks, right? Because he's going to be, or that person's going to be the first one to elevate the trades, because what they tell their friends and family is what everyone's going to listen to, and that's if they're not happy about their job, then there's no way you're going to be able to elevate the mindset. So as leaders, what do we have to do to prevent that mindset? And we've got to treat them with respect. We've got to give them good working conditions, safe working conditions, be intentional about these folks getting back home every night the way they arrived, that morning. So it's a challenge for sure, but I think that's where elevating the trades is going to start.
One of the things that we did, and I'll come to you in a sec, but in Cleveland, in the greater Cleveland area, we started an awards program called the Craftsmanship Awards. It's been going on for 5 years now. We had our 5th one at the Brown Stadium last week. And we try to highlight from start to finish, from apprentices of the year in each trade, who are the best in their class as 4th-year apprentices in each trade. Let them come up on stage and get recognized. And then craftsmanship awards for the quality work delivered out in the field, leading teams leading crews out in the field, and then we have videos for each recipient of those awards. Some of you in the room were there with us last week when we did that. But the whole point of that is two things. One is to allow companies to shine a spotlight on themselves and on their workers and say, we appreciate you. Look how much we appreciate you. This is like the Oscars for construction. They're 5-pound granite and metallic trophies that we hand out. And also to just make the workers feel good about themselves, and then to use all that video that 216 in the back of the room produces for us after the fact to promote the trades as something worth pursuing, something that's a professional industry where you have to be really skilled at and you can do great work at.
I just wanted to make a comment regarding elevating the trades, and I think part of it starts with demystifying and breaking up the misconceptions that are out there. I think there's a lot of people who believe because construction is dirty and sweaty that the pay isn't there, which is a misconception. A lot of people, good workers, are able to make a very decent living. And if you look at the average student loans for college graduates, it's about $40,000 per graduating student. Some are more, some are less. But I think it's that misconception where in high school, students sit there and they hear they need to go to college knowing they don't learn in a traditional learning lecture type environment. And then they go into schools, they go through maybe 2 years, end up quitting, they have $60,000 in loans, and then they feel, lost. And I think it's just having to go out and making that point to these people that there are other alternatives, and there is this social misconception that it might not be a noble job or a clean job, but it really is. We are building the built environment, and without these people, the tradespeople, we wouldn't be standing in these gorgeous buildings that we are, and driving over bridges and driving in our nice cars and et cetera. So I think that's part of it too, is demystifying it to all these people.
I think a really important audience is educators. Obviously friends and family are really important influencers as well, but working in secondary education, I had no idea, for example, that an apprenticeship is an earn and learn kind of a model, that somebody going through their apprenticeship is making really good money already. It was always presented as this choice between college or career, when in fact the two can go hand in hand. Almost by definition, people who are educators, went to college, got a bachelor's degree, maybe even an advanced degree, and that's, they see that as the path because it's the path that they went down. And I think if we can kind of engage educators in a very intentional way, educate them on some of the misconceptions that you identified, and let them know that this really could be a wonderful path for certain young people who are in your classroom. And by the way, like, some of your top students could make excellent tradespeople. I think we could start to see some things turn. And I think Ken referred to this earlier. I've started to feel a bit more openness from parents and from educators, that like not everybody's got to go to college to be successful.
Keith, also 15 years secondary educator. And so I'm Tommy from Shook with Steve. And just wanted to piggyback on the mystification and the paradigm shift that we're trying to tackle in that. And one of the greatest, the worst stats that I saw this year was that 1 in 6 18-year-olds between the age of 18 and 26 are living at home, not in school, not employed. And that is just a staggering stat. And one of those things is, as educators, I don't know if I'm speaking for Keith, but it sounds like we're in the same boat. I want to apologize to all of you for what I did for a decade and a half of going through the idea of driving every student into a 4-year college. It was either you're smart or you're not smart, you're academic or you're not academic. And that's why Shook allows me to go out with 19,000 students and try to change that narrative, because if we don't have labor force. If we don't have boots on the ground, we don't build structures. If we don't build structures, we don't expand the infrastructure of this country. And so as a result of that, it's slowly shifting as was going on here. But what have we been doing is preaching passion, purpose, plan this year to students, and last year, and those 19,000 in front of administrators and in front of teachers and in front of students and parents. And that was, it's not that we're not telling your student not, or your child or your student not to go to college. We're saying there's alternative paths to not accrue that debt. Here in the middle, you said that the average teacher, we're teachers, Keith and I are, today makes $42,500 after 14 years. The average debt for that teacher is $40,000. The average nurse in the state of Ohio comes out making $70,000 for the first year. Average debt is about $40,000. The average operator in Ohio, which bring home package as a journeyman, is about $115,000 with zero debt. So you look at that and go, why are we not championing some of these trade pathways? And that's just an example. And so I tell students every time I'm in front of them, I'm the son of 2 educators, and if I told them at 18, 25 years ago that I was going to be a carpenter, they would have said, no son of ours is going to get dirty every day. It's just not who you are. And I tell them now, I would go right to that hall. I would go through that apprenticeship program. Then I would come out with no debt, 40 college credit hours. I'd transfer them to Cuyahoga Community College or Tri-C. And then I would let the state of Ohio give me some scholarship dollars, finish that pathway, then go to a company, let them pay for the rest of my degree. Work my way up and then let them pay for the rest of my bachelor's degree. And so it's not that we're shifting the narrative of what the trades perception is of not being educated. It's just shifting to a lifelong mindset of learning. So I'm going to speak for the panel here and say I would ask all of you to help champion that for us in our K-12 schools as we continue to move forward.
To the point, a question asked back here earlier about how hard the conditions are sometimes. One of the examples that I thought of when we were starting Cleveland Bills was the Armed Forces marketing, because it's all purpose-driven. It's all, you be a hero, do something for your country, have a purpose. And to Shook's slides there where your mission is front and center, I just wonder, Scott, whether or not that mission has matriculated or seeps down into the trades, and whether or not, Steve, the trades are buying into the mission as part of what they view as what they're doing.
So yeah, we have had foreman and superintendent participate. So right now, it definitely serves as a great recruiting tool for us, because a lot of young folks that come to us feel like that's a differentiator for us, because they love giving back to their communities. They love the possibilities of having the opportunity to go abroad and help others. So it definitely does impact and assist us in that effort.
Anybody in the audience want to talk about what you're doing to try to change the perception to be able to attract people to the trades? Nobody's got any ideas? Jason?
Yeah. We're a primarily general contractor, construction manager in Ohio, Cleveland Construction. But we recognize that our industry was suffering from this stigma. Not a lot of people wanting to get into it. Even from a professional standpoint, as a superintendent or a project manager. And we were kind of looking at trends and data and all that good stuff, and decided to open up entry-level positions to high school graduates, giving high school graduates who didn't want to pursue maybe a bachelor's degree right out of the gate the chance to come in and be mentored by a superintendent and serve as a field engineer. And then also throughout this, we have a 3-year program. Throughout the program, have the opportunity to go, take some classes at a local community college, and eventually pursue a bachelor's degree if they want to, giving them that option. We partnered with 4 trade programs in Lake County, Ohio, and then 1 in Cuyahoga, and we saw probably 20 applicants. They brought their parents to the information sessions and whatnot. We have hired 10 individuals now. Half of them opted out. Some of them actually elected to join an apprenticeship program with the trades, and we are okay with that. If that's the career that they want to, or if that's a path that they want to choose, we're actually encouraging it. Just one thing that we're doing just from our perspective as a GCCM to try to bring people in, because it's not just limited to actual tradesmen, the craft workers, it's also, the management side of the business that's suffering as well, so.
Keith, why don't you tell us about some of our participants in Cleveland Builds where they maybe started in a career, nursing was mentioned, in the back of the room, and switched to construction trades, and then what was their motivation?
Yeah, well, you could probably tell the story about Hannah, one of the people that you just alluded to, as well as I could, because we're just incredibly proud of her. She was a school-based nurse and actually had an athletic background, played some college soccer, and I don't know exactly how old Hannah is, but I suspect she was around 30 when she came to us. Just great maturity, great confidence, but no construction background whatsoever. Went through our apprenticeship readiness program, and our director of placement says he wishes we would have more people who would come from nursing or the medical industry, because those folks can manage so many different priorities and so many different emergencies like you might see on a construction site. But anyway, Hannah is going into her 3rd year as a carpenter, and she was recognized, as Tim knows, at last year's Building Excellence Awards as a apprentice of the year. So she's a great story. Another guy whose story is a little bit different that I don't actually talk about all that often, but a guy named John, he got a 4-year degree from Cleveland State University, and after he finished that, he decided, I don't want to do anything with this degree that I got. I'd really like to become a carpenter. Again, didn't have any experience, but started. He contacted the carpenters, and they gave him a stack of contacts that big, and said, start dialing for the contractor that's gonna bring you on. And he did that, and wasn't getting any return phone calls, and felt like he was hitting a dead end. He didn't have a friend or a family member who could help get him in, and fortunately we exist, and he got in touch with us. And one of the things that we like to say to our participants is that we're your friend, we're your family member, so we'll help pave the way for you to get into the union that you're qualified for. So he's now a carpenter. There's another guy. I hope everybody's got some time. I could tell you about all 200 people that we've placed. I'm obviously very proud of them. But no, seriously, I'll just tell one more story. A guy named Keyshawn. Side story that's pretty darn cool is he was the first one to go through the program. Then his brother went through the program. Then their dad went through the program. All three are working in the trades now. But when I first met Keyshawn, I said, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm working at a Foot Locker." I said, "How long have you been there?" About 5 years. I said, "You're a smart guy, you're a talented guy, where's that going?" He's like, "Well, they've been telling me for 2 years now that I'm gonna become a store manager, but it still hasn't happened." I said, "All right, well, how much money are you making?" He was making $10 an hour. $10 an hour after 5 years, and this is a guy, any one of you would hire him immediately. Just, smart, charismatic, great guy. Went through our program, and now a second-year cement mason, and let's just say he's making more than $10 an hour doing that, and he's on a path to, he could be pulling 6 figures, within the next 4 or 5 years. So, were there any stories you wanted me to specifically that you wanted me to tell?
One of the things that we've done, and chip in, Steve and Ken, if you have anything to add on that, but one of the things we've done is reached out to coaching networks. There's a football league in Cleveland. So it's Cleveland Metropolitan School District dropped middle school football years ago. So the Cleveland Municipal Football League is a private nonprofit that hosts, I think it's a couple thousand, if not more, kids from elementary school all the way up to 8th grade in football programs. And we've tried to partner at Cleveland Bills with the coaches of those teams to just spread the word of people leveling up for themselves and their families. The mentorship networks, we have great websites. I Build America Ohio is a great website. Cleveland Builds has a great website with videos of each trade and what it might mean to work in those trades. But somebody has to find that website, and there's nobody with the Department of Defense budget to put commercials all over the NFL games and all over the college football games and whatever other TV shows that are out there. That's just not affordable for our industry. Somebody has to find those websites to be able to tap into those resources. So I really think it's still about the mentor networks. There's friends and families and uncles and grandfathers before, but I think it's still about the mentorship networks, the coaches, the teachers, the pastors even, and we're trying to partner with churches for people to be able to see somebody they respect, either refer them to the trades, or for these coaches themselves, they're young men, to come into the trades themselves and then to show the boys and girls they're coaching what it might be to pursue that.
So, Tim, I know we don't have too much more time here, but I know you weren't here earlier, but earlier in the program we did a Mentimeter vote for. He gave us 7 different options, right, to rank them in order on what motivates, or just vote for what motivates your field workforce. I took a snapshot of it just so we could talk about it real quick here. And the number one motivator that everyone in the program today voted for was wages. And then the last thing that everyone voted for was personal growth, which to me is a little perplexing, because I think in terms of trying to elevate the trades is we've got to offer opportunity for growth to these guys and explain to them it's not, you reach out, you tap out as a journeyman, that doesn't have to be the end of it. There's so many endless possibilities where they can gain the knowledge and the experience, and years later they could become their own boss. They could be an employer of their own, or they become the leader or the manager to lead, the younger group when, several years down the road. So I don't know, to me, that was a little bit skewed in my opinion, and I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I'll just mention Steve on that. I noticed that, and it occurs to me that's one of the issues. That's the perception of management. That's the perception of people in the room who are not in the trades as to what they think.
That's a good question. Great point.
Yeah.
In fact, I suspect personal growth is much higher on that list if you're in their shoes about what they really care about. And I think one of the issues that showed was maybe, now you guys are a little bit more involved, but for a lot of other folks who are, professionals in the industry, architects, engineers, and others, I think there may be a misperception about what really is going to motivate young people to get into the trades, where they think it's just all about money, which is important, versus what they really may care about, and a reason that they would get into it, and what they do want to see is personal growth. So I think that would be much higher up if you took their polling and not the polling of the people in the room.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, money gets them there, keeps them there. So what motivates people is something like that. When I wake up and say, I'm going to work hard today, you'll still going to get that same wage every day.
And to piggyback that, the industry has grown so much and developed with just different avenues of, design, build, and, estimating, and all these different avenues that I came up through the trades as an electrician and, did think that, in several years after being topped out that I was going to be in a project management role or something like that. But there's a lot of avenues that I think younger kids don't realize that you can get to, and you can get there relatively quick if you work hard at it too. So the perception of I'm going to be out here in this mud and dirty and hot for the next 35 years is kind of a past perception. I think there's so many avenues and different paths that you can go down to move up that definitely something to look at.
Thanks for not needing a microphone.
Matt Morgan talked about it this morning. The Cleveland EL group, we have the community outreach group, and we made a presentation to present to mostly high schoolers, defining the different pathways, whether it's architects, engineers, managers, and tradespeople. And within that slide, I created one that has a flow chart that shows the different pathways, which show you can end up being an owner of a company, you can end up being a project manager. So I think if anyone in the room is interested in that slide to show to people to present, we're more than happy to share that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
I just had one for Cleveland Bills. Do you have a direct relationship with, most of the companies, most of the large employers in Northeast Ohio, mechanical contractors, the GCs, and do you support them? For instance, our company's a mechanical contractor. We do a lot with STEM, a lot with local districts, school districts. Does your organization support companies like ours in giving us advice and statistics and helping us with this outreach?
You've just asked, I think, and we would love to partner with you on that. I can't think of any, there's no formal structure where we've done that previously.
Okay.
But yeah, I think as this young woman up here was speaking earlier, and as you're talking, I was thinking of, it's great for all of us to be a little entrepreneurial and to be doing our own thing. and kind of bringing back lessons learned. But it would be even better if we were kind of working in concert with one another. And I want that slide, please. And I think that's definitely a service that we could be providing. And I think the language that we're using to promote the trades, what Jeff was just saying a moment ago, this idea about personal growth, I tend to characterize it as, pathways for advancement or, opportunities for growth. When I talk to young people about that, they perk up, they light up, I don't know that they can see themselves working in the mud for 30 years, but building a career, they're not afraid of hard work, and they like this idea of building a career. I think we're starting to, again, we're only 3 years old, but I think we've started to figure out some of the language that really seems to be working. We've got some data that we could be sharing, and yeah, we'd love to partner.
One of the things that we've done, and we're wrapping up here, standing in between you and the reception, is the ownership group in the city has started to be attracted to the idea of Cleveland Builds. Cleveland Clinic has 3 huge projects going on in their central campus, and the banners on the fences around those projects talk about Cleveland Builds. Go to Cleveland Builds to start a career in construction. And Turner facilitated that along with Whiting Turner and Gilbane, who are doing the 3 jobs. And we're looking for GCs and CMs like them, as well as the specialty contractors, to promote Cleveland Builds, because you may see somebody at a job fair, he might not be interested in mechanical or plumbing work. He might be a great operator or carpenter, but if they only see you or the union or the union for that trade, they don't even know that there is such a thing as a glazer, for instance, or a taper. What's a taper? What's a glazer? A lot of people outside of the industry don't know that there's 17 different things they could be doing in construction. So that's been very helpful. We also have on the board, not to talk all about Cleveland Builds, but we have on the board mechanical contractors, Armando from Lake Erie is on the board, Tom Martin Jr. from T.H. Martin's on the board, and we have 2 carpentry contractors on the board. So try to flesh that out, and the union side is also multiple trades that are trying to cover the whole industry that way. But yeah, echo Keith, we'd love to figure out ways of working with specific contractors. I think that wraps up our time. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Our Mentimeter's not working, so no voting.